What's up, guys? It's been 2000 YuGiOh, your friendly neighborhood Yu-Gi-Oh superhero, and I've got a viewer requested video, so let's get into it. Just a reminder, guys, that today's video is brought to you by the Legion of YuGiOh Superheroes Facebook group. Guys, make sure that you follow me on there so that you guys can have a better chance of getting your own request made for the channel. Alright guys, so for today, we're going to be talking about side decking. This seems to be something that a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players have issues with, and also for the record, if I sound a bit nasally, forgive me, my allergies are kicking my butt because Texas doesn't know how to do seasons! Anyway, so the first thing you want to know your deck. This is going to be the key factor for anything really in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is knowing how to play your deck first and foremost. You need to know whether you're going first, going second, control, combo, anti-meta, stun, whatever kind of deck that you're piloting. You need to understand your basic combos and the key cards that are key components to your deck for it to function, regardless of whether you have to side for something else. So that's the first thing you need to know your deck inside and out. Now for the next thing is you need to keep track of the meta. The meta is an ever-shifting beast. Knowing the meta decks that you'll be facing, it's also a good tip is to learn how these decks do their basic plays. That way, because the truth is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has become a very complex game. It's not so easy as it used to be, like back in the day, where you could just, destroy one card or flip a card that says, oh, you can't special summon. You can't do that anymore. Now you have to learn the meta decks and hit key component cards to keep them from getting to their bigger plays or to out their bigger plays should you be going second. The next thing you want to know is, speaking of that, is we're going second or first. Basically, the reason why this is important, like so for example, with the cards that we have revealed here, Anti-Spell Fragrance is an example of a card you want if you're going to be going first in a side deck. Versus going second. You're going to be playing more games with your side deck than without, is what I'm trying to get at here. So understanding that is going to also make these decisions, I think, a little easier, personally. So the first thing that we have is the as an example, if we're going first, if you're going first, you get to use things like trap cards. If you're going second, hand traps are going to be more likely the thing that you want, as an example. So that's the thing you need to remember there, going first or second. Next, know your budget options. Not everybody can afford cards like Infinite and Permanent, so Effect Veiler is, as seen on the screen, is a primary example of how to, a card you can replace for. Your budget options, like, for example, obviously not everyone can afford Lightning Storm, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to play it. There are other options. So knowing your budget options is also a good thing. The next thing is knowing what to side, what to take out from your main deck to put into the side deck and then swapping it out. Obviously, that's how the side deck works, but you get the point. But you got to know what to do that with. So if you're up against a combo heavy deck, as you guys can see on the screen, your Twin Twisters aren't most likely going to be all that useful for you if you're up against that. So you play something like Dark Ruler No More as an example to out their board. To caveat for this, knowing what to side, another tip is, if possible, side monsters for monsters and spells and traps for spells and traps. As you guys can see on the screen, we have swapping out Ash Blossom for Denko Sekka, monster for monster. Just, you know what I mean? Like if your hand traps may not be necessarily viable against a deck that you're up against, Denko Sekka is an example of a swap. So the idea there is, also keeps the balance of your deck. You know what I mean? A lot of players try to keep a certain number of monsters, a certain number of spells. And since there's so many different types of decks out there, I don't want to give you guys specifics on that, but just as a general rule of thumb, it may not be a bad idea to try to swap, corresponding cards. All right, now for the next thing you want to have is try to make your side deck multi-purpose. This tip actually comes from Simo, but I'm kind of taking it from my own spin to it. As you guys can see, you have cards that are on the screen that are multi-purpose. Like, for example, Lightning Storm is good against front row and back row. Effect Veiler is not only an effect negator, but it's also a tuner, and Denko Sekka is a thunder monster, and also a back row block and a light monster. So why are I'm using these as examples for multi-purpose cards? Effect Veiler, like I said, is a tuner. If you're playing a synchro deck, if worst case scenario, you might be able to just summon it and use it to make a synchro play. Denko Sekka is a light thunder monster, which if you're playing any kind of deck that relies on thunder monsters, or if you're playing a deck that relies on these light monsters in the graveyard, there you go. Denko Sekka is a light monster, which could be used for chaos, and as you guys know, Lightning Storm is just Regeki and Harpy's Feather Duster, so it's kind of whatever you need it to be. The next thing you guys want to know is know what not only hurts the meta, but might also hurt Rogue. As you guys can see here on the screen, and I'll have to move me again. As you guys can see on the screen here, we have Denko Sekka, and we have the Altergeist Protocol and Paleozoic Dynamiscus. The point is the Paleo represents Paleo Frog, Altergeist represents Altergeist, obviously. So the idea here is Denko Sekka shuts down the back row for both decks, even though Altergeist is typically going to be the stronger of a deck that serves kind of a similar strategy. They're both back row heavy decks. Denko Sekka is going to be something that's going to be good against both. That's the point I'm trying to get at, is you want to think about cards that are also going to be not only useful against the meta, but might also be useful against the rogue options that you'll come across, because a lot of players prefer rogue over meta decks. I'm actually kind of one of them. So it's just, because rogue has that surprise factor. So knowing, get a good consensus of what the rogue decks are, so you kind of like, okay, so meta first, then use rogue as a way to go, okay, this is also good against this rogue deck, this is also good against that rogue deck, and then your side deck will be stronger for it. And then the last and probably the most important thing that you guys want to know, and this is probably the most difficult thing for a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players, is options for time. As you guys can see, you have a lot of cards on the front here where we have cards that do damage, heal life points, block damage, etc. The point of this is to remind you guys, Yu-Gi-Oh is, like I said, it's a complex game, and unfortunately it does have ever-changing rules, and one of the rule changes that a lot of the player base obviously groans at, and I'm one of them, is the time rules. It sucks. It does suck, because I won't get into my issues with it, my personal issues with it, but it's a factor that you're going to have to think about, and a lot of players prefer to think about this for the extra deck, but it's not. You can also choose to not just think about this as an extra, but also look at the sideboard, especially if the format is a bit of I want to say a slower format. You might want to think about cards that burn your opponent, because especially if your time is going to run out. Understand, and depending on what you are playing will depend on what these cards will be, but as you guys can see on the screen, it's just an example of things you might want to think about when you're building your sideboard. Are you expecting to run into time a lot? Like, for example, if you're a Mystic Mind player. I know, hold your pitchforks, guys. I know there's a lot of hate for that deck, but Mystic Mind Burn is a deck, and if you're up against it and you're going to be going up against time, you might want something to either burn them back or block the damage altogether. It's just something to think about, especially in terms of time. So, there you go, have it, guys. This is all my tips for side decking. I know this video was a bit chaotic, as I haven't done discussion videos for a while. We're about to head back into the structure deck wars, though, just to give you a big warning, because we're almost done, and I can't wait for you guys to see the last collab I have for you guys. It's something divine. Anyway. I'm Ben 2000 YuGiOh. I'm your friendly neighborhood Yu-Gi-Oh superhero. If you enjoy these presentation-y, discussion-type videos, make sure you drop me one of these. Let me know that you're enjoying the conversation. And make sure you join my Facebook group, the Legion of YuGiOh Superheroes, so that you can have your suggestion for a video made in the future, possibly. So, without further ado, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.